From the All Indiana Podcast Network.
The All Indiana Podcast Network.
This is the News 8 Daily 8.
Now the latest news.
Kylie Conway has all the news you need to know.
And more.
Please stand by.
This episode of News 8 Daily 8 is presented by Downtown Indy.
Now, here's Wish TV's Kylie Conway.
Hi, this is Kylie Conway, and this is the News 8 Daily 8 for Wednesday, November 4th. First, it's another beautiful day, starting off a bit warmer in the 40s. It's going to warm up nicely with temps in the upper 60s, plenty of sunshine. Okay, today we are focusing entirely on election results. We're watching them very closely from local races to the presidential race. Locally, Governor Holcomb won his re-election handily. The 5th Congressional District is still unclaimed officially, and the race for the White House is a nail-biter. So right now, 6 battleground states are up for grabs. Wisconsin leaned blue overnight. Michigan is leaning blue at the moment. This is at 10:30, I should say, this morning. And then Nevada is close as well. The two candidates are neck and neck. With all of these numbers still very unsettled, I wanted to go to the experts. Spencer Valentine has been involved in Indiana politics for years and years. He joined me for some analysis. Spencer Valentine, thanks for joining me here on the News 8 Daily 8 podcast. Appreciate you calling in. Let's talk election here. We had you on our election special last evening, and today, waking up, have you been surprised by what you've seen?
Not really, no. In an election with this much turnout, where due to COVID and other activities, there was so much mail-in and paper ballots that have to be processed. If anybody thought they were going to know it last night, they were joking themselves to begin with. I knew that a long time ago, and especially when you know the states that are still in play. Pennsylvania, as there's already been news that as long as a ballot is postmarked by election day, it can still be received up to 9 days later. That's in keeping with how slow the mail is and difficulties that have been happening there and all those other states. So what we saw last night, for most counts, especially in those states that haven't been called yet, those are the machine counts off of day of voting, and all the paper ballots now have to be processed, and that's a laborious process. That's taking them out of envelopes, making sure the signatures were there. When taking it out of an envelope takes longer than you think, because you have to check the envelope for all the items that have to be done on it. Then they got to get flattened out a little bit and organized and done by precinct, which you hopefully done by the envelope process, and then run through a machine. And when you have, here in Indianapolis, it's like more than 200,000 of those. Or I'm sorry, not more than, way more than that, like 600,000, I think. And when you talk about states that have double the population of Indiana, then you're talking about a lot of ballots.
It's been really interesting to watch these battleground states this morning. Just, Wisconsin last night was voting Trump. This morning, clearly going to Biden right now. Well, not clearly, I shouldn't say. They're within 20,000 votes right there out of 1.6, out of more than 3 million. They're within 20,000 votes. Also, Michigan right now at 9:39 a.m. this Wednesday morning, it just flipped back over to Biden. And so he is now about 19,000 votes ahead of Trump right now. So to your point, we are seeing those mail-in ballots being counted. Michigan did just give that update around 9 o'clock this morning. So what do you think we're going to see here, as far as given how many Democrats, Republicans did those mail-in ballots, did the early voting, and when do we expect to see some real results?
Well, a lot of the early polling about who's that asks questions besides who you're voting for, but ask, why are you voting? Are you voting early, or things like that? What did the correlation there a lot of times leaned more Democrat positive, and that's why this the term for this, by the way, somebody coined months ago online. I forget who it was, but it was termed a red mirage. Expect a red mirage, because so much of the president's people we're going to be voting day of at machines, and then so many of the people that are affected by COVID that have jobs they have to work on election day, that have concerns for their safety because of COVID. They did a lot more of the paper ballots by mail, and so they expected what was called a red mirage or on the night of that will dissipate as the bluer paper ballots come in.
So as we watch these results come in, should we pay attention? I mean, clearly pay attention to where the numbers are going, but will we soon start to see a trend that we can trust? Or is this truly going to be until the last ballot is counted in these battleground states?
Well, certainly, I mean, it depends on the state you're talking about. I mean, I think Pennsylvania is going to turn pretty clearly, but that's going to be pretty clear and pretty late, just because of what the Supreme Court found about the ability to still get ballots in the mail. I mean, they're still getting ballots in the mail. That as long as that, and they have to check the postmarks. Same with Michigan. But now, let's see. I don't know what. I haven't
you think Pennsylvania is going to turn? You think it's going to turn blue?
I do think it's going to turn blue. Now, there's other states like Georgia. I mean, I tell you, if you told me in March that Georgia was going to be in play, I'd have laughed heartily in your face. But it looks like Georgia's in play, and there's a lot of people predicting that to actually be a win for Biden. And
you thought that Georgia would be clearly?
Oh, Georgia. I mean, last time I can't tell you the last time Georgia went. Probably. I don't think it went for Clinton either time. Might have been. Probably was Jimmy Carter was the last time it went blue.
Interesting. I mean, this is, of course, Bush Gore, very, very close. In your historical memory here with presidential elections, can you remember many that were this nail biting?
No. I mean, I'd be a liar. I mean, Bush v. Gore certainly. But let's talk about the difference between this and Bush v. Gore. First of all, one of the things people don't remember about the Supreme Court's announcement was that the last line of the Supreme Court's pronouncement in Bush v. Gore said this only counts for this election and should not be taken as precedent for the future, something to those effects, which is something that the Supreme Court has never, ever said in any of its rulings. So if people are thinking that they can apply the Bush v. Gore principles to this, that's a good reason why you can't count on that. Plus, one of the main reasons they said to stop the count in Florida was that each county had separate, different recount rules, and so they couldn't. They said it couldn't be uniform, and so in the state of Indiana, if that was the case, and most states have corrected that in light of Bush v. Gore. So I don't know how that goes with, say, Georgia, but there you got to remember just that there are a lot of states have taken the issues of Bush v. Gore and legislated them out of the process of mischievousness or something. There are three things. Now, this is an Indiana law, but there's a recanvass, which means you really just add up the tallies by precinct again. And that's not really a recount. You're just looking for a mathematical error that somebody made in the tallying of each precinct's numbers. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, like back in the old days when that was done by hand, there were people that put, the Democrat column answer in the Republican column, and then they'd find it when they would recanvass and see where the problem was. But and then there's a recount, and a recount is where you're going to actually pull ballots and recount them. And then there's a contest. A contest means something has been done wrong in the election, like the county mishandled the process. There were a ballot machine was stolen or something, mm-hmm. or ballots that were delivered disappeared, and there's some kind of criminal activity or things along those lines. So and so there's a lot of different ways for somebody to try to attack the process, and we've noticed it's pretty obvious that the president will use just about any means he can find, but it's clear that
that there are rules in place for the counting of these. We're a country of laws, not men, as has been said before, and as much as the president wants it not to be so, there are laws and processes for this. He may say that it's crazy that we're counting after Election Day, but in the state of Indiana, the certification of isn't until November 16th. You can count ballots all the way up to the point of certification. And the day after certification, in Indiana at least, is the first day that you can ask for a recount.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about the 5th Congressional District race. Victoria Sparchi declared victory last night. Still a very close race, actually, and we have lots of mail-in ballots to count, as you mentioned. Are you surprised that she declared, or do you think she's got a pretty safe pad there?
I said that last night. I compared it to, they said she was going to announce, and I kind of grimaced for her. I mean, that's too early when there's that many paper ballots that are still going to be counted for that race. I said yesterday that it's you run the risk of Dewey defeats Truman. You run the risk of announcing and then having to recant, or somebody else having to make you recant. I think it set a bad precedent. And I mean, for her, she may be the one that has to step back from that. You didn't see that from Christina Hale early on when she was ahead in the count. But again, and that race is going to come down to a very great deal of paper ballots that are still getting unfolded and put through machines. And those are the areas that tend to favor Christina Hale. Those are in Marion County. Those are in Indianapolis. And even some 35,000, as I heard last night. I don't know what the total is now, but 35,000 uncounted Hamilton County ballots, which is Hamilton County is the purplest county in that area. It's made a move towards the blue, and that's why Susan Brooks isn't running. She saw that there's a lot of difficulty for a Republican to fight that fight going forward. It's a changing district. People that were Indianapolis-based Democrats have moved out into the donut, and that's a lot of them, and that's changing the shape of those areas.
I mean, my question is, for any candidate for that matter, what's the benefit in declaring victory early?
I don't see one. I don't say don't give a speech, because you got a lot of people waiting on you. You got a lot of people that worked for you. You got a lot of people that helped you. The better thing for her to do would have been to step up to the mic and say, well, obviously there's a lot still going on, but we feel confident and we think it looks good. But I wanted to come out here and thank everybody for their support. But her speech last night about all the things she was about to go do, and it was not even a victory speech as much as it was like it was an inaugural speech. It was like she was listing the items she wanted to work on, which is okay. But again, it runs a very. It's not. Is it illegal? Is it wrong? No, because But is it dangerous for you as a person, as a candidate, to go out and do that? Yes. She should have gone out there and said, we feel confident. We look forward to seeing the rest of this. We think we're going to likely win. But I wanted to come out here and thank all the people that supported me and all the people that worked with me and my husband and my family and blah, 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 all the stuff you do in those speeches.
Okay, Spencer, anything else you'd want to add from this?
Well, I don't know what the total is now, but when I went to bed last night, the state rep race, state senate rep, Fadi Kadora versus John Ruckelhaus. That was 250 votes when I went to bed, and that's an interesting thing. I don't know what the total is now, but that's headed towards a recount possibly. But again, also the same thing that goes there. That margin could grow with more paper ballots being counted over time. But again, I just want to close by saying, first, no, I'll tell you, the one thing I do want to say is that we should all be very proud of the people that made this election happen. There's been calm, there's been process here in Marion County and some of the other counties, but here in Marion County, where I've visited the election office and seen what they're doing, they've had a great process. They've managed this very, very well, and the fact that people are still counting ballots is a sign only of a historically high turnout or an early vote election. It is not a sign of folks of any kind of hoodwinking. It's or inability to do it right by the county. But I thank those people because they're doing a great job, and we should all be glad that all the people that worked at the polls, all the people that are counting votes today and tomorrow and maybe Thursday and maybe Friday will be continuing. And we should be calm, and we should practice a little bit of calm.
Kindness and calm.
Kindness and calm. Absolutely. Absolutely. The country goes through this all the time, and it's something to be relished. It's something to be proud of. But that's it. And I appreciated the time to talk yesterday, and I appreciate the time to talk now. And thanks so much.
Thank you, Spencer. I really appreciate your time. I know you're very busy, so have a great day, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you over the next few days.
I'll be glad to. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Searching for a romantic summer getaway? Escape with Rich Girl Summer, the new Audible original from Lily Chu. The exquisitely talented Philippa Sue, returning to narrate her 5th Lily Chu title. This time, Philippa is joined by her real-life husband, Stephen Pasquale. Set in Toronto's wealthy cottage country, aka the Hamptons of Canada, Rich Girl Summer follows the story of Valerie, a down-on-her-luck event planner posing as a socialite's long-lost daughter, while piecing together the secrets surrounding a mysterious family and falling deeper and deeper in love with the impossibly hard-to-read and infuriatingly handsome family assistant, Nico. Caught between pretending to belong and unexpectedly finding where she truly fits in, Valerie learns her summer is about to get far more complicated than she ever planned. She's in over her head and head over heels. Listen to Rich Girl Summer now on Audible. Go to audible.com/richgirlsummer.
Now, as far as the election results being taken to the Supreme Court, it's not so simple. To break down the scenarios, I'm joined by Andy Trusevich, who is a trial lawyer out of Texas with extensive knowledge of the U.S. Supreme Court. So first, let's talk about what are the options here? What options do President Trump have that could actually ultimately lead to a Supreme Court case here?
So what he would have to do is, I know he said he would go directly to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court only has original jurisdiction in very few areas. Just as an example, if one state sues another state, they can go directly to the Supreme Court, or one branch of the government sues another branch of the government. But he can't just file in the Supreme Court. So what he would have to do is, number one, find a reason to, let's say he's going to sue Pennsylvania, or Georgia, or North Carolina, or Michigan, or Wisconsin, one of the battleground states. He would have to say, go into a federal district court first, go before that judge and say, here's why I am attacking this on a constitutional basis. It's disenfranchising voters by the following. And he'd have to fill in that blank to that judge. And he or she would have to look at it and say, okay, that is a constitutional violation, disenfranchised. For example, if he could prove that one of the states was counting ballots that came in after November 3rd, meaning after 12:01 a.m. on that it was cast, not that was received, but actually cast. Somebody puts it in a drop box at 12:01 on November 4th, 12:01 a.m., and say that is not allowed. And even though it's not allowed under state law, the reason it's a constitutional issue is the rest of the country would be disenfranchised if you allow a state to say, okay, the national election is November 3rd, but we're going to allow people to vote on November 4th or 5th. So he has to find a reason for that. And that's Gore v. Bush was, everyone thought, well, why isn't that a state issue under Florida election law, under the 10th Amendment? Issues that aren't in the Constitution are left to the state. And then Gore v. Bush, the Supreme Court said, even though it's a state issue, they're counting the hanging chads, but it's a national issue because it would disenfranchise voters in other states. So that's how they took jurisdiction over Gore v. Bush. And ultimately, it was a 5-4 decision. But so that's what he would have to do, is go into a federal district court first, allege a constitutional violation. I think in the law, they call it ripeness, sort of like an apple. You don't pick an apple before it's red. You don't eat the green apple. You wait till it's ripe. In court, you can't go into court until the issue is ripe. And what that means is, if he goes in today, I don't think he has anything right now, that he has any evidence that one of these states is doing something unconstitutional. On the flip side, you have Joe Biden could also go into court and say, well, listen, in Pennsylvania, they aren't counting ballots that what they call have a secure sleeve in it, that aren't double enveloped. We're throwing those out. We're not going to count those. He could say that disenfranchises voters. So I believe both sides are going to file court actions if it's real close. If you look at Georgia, Fulton County, DeKalb County, those votes haven't come in yet. If that pushes Biden over by, let's say, 3 or 4 or 5 points, I don't think you're going to see a challenge there. But if it's within 1 or 2 percentage points, you're going to see court actions by both parties. I'm sure lawyers are being hired as we speak, if they already haven't been hired in the last month, the old army of lawyers, and going into these different states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, North Carolina, Georgia. But again, they have to go to the district court, win or lose there. If they lose, they will go to then the Court of Appeals. That Court of Appeals, a three-judge panel, would hear that. And then if they lose there, then and only then could they go up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has to, 4 or more justices have to decide to hear it or not. And Amy Coney Barrett, my guess, would sit on that one and not recuse herself. But do I think they would take it? I do think they would take it because it has national implications. But sorry for the long answer, but it is going to, I believe both sides will be filing court actions in different states.
So this is going to be a long, arduous process either way. But you're saying that President Trump, he's saying that he's going to challenge all of these ballots that are coming in now. And you're saying that really doesn't have a leg to stand on. It has to be challenging that there were mail-in ballots submitted post the election deadline.
Correct. And so in the law, if like under contract law, if you and I have a contract and you say, Andy, you have to decide by November 11:59 p.m. on November 3rd, if I stick it in the mailbox on November 3rd, under the law, that is received by you, even though it may take 3 or 5 or 7 days to get to you. Under the law, the mailbox rule, it's called, that once you deposit it in that mailbox, it doesn't matter how long it takes, as long as it's a reasonable time, that contract's valid. Even though you may not get it a week later and you say, well, you didn't accept on time, and I'll say, yeah, I did, it's postmarked on November 3rd. So I don't think he's going to get anywhere with, well, the fact that someone put in I think I heard it may have been Senator Cornyn say, wait a second, people should have dropped their ballots in earlier. That's not what the law is in the state. And the Supreme Court and federal courts defer to the states under the 10th Amendment unless they're doing something that has a national implication. And if you put it in the mail on November 3rd and it's postmarked, even though I think North Carolina is a little bit long, I think they're waiting a week from Friday to give votes to come in. But as long as they're postmarked, they're going to count. And I do not believe the Supreme Court, any court of appeals, or any district court is going to touch that. And I think that makes sense logically, because if the state wants to say the ballot has to be received by November 3rd, then at least the voter would know, okay, I better drop this in the mail 7 days before or 10 days before. But that's not what the law says. The law says that it has to be postmarked by November 3rd, and a federal court's not going to intervene with the way a state Does their election laws, for instance, in Texas, you may have seen that the Republicans said, no, we only want one drop box per county. And that's not what the law was. And so a federal judge said, no, we're not going to do that. So federal courts are very hesitant to interfere with state regulations.
So how soon do you think we could see a lawsuit filed here?
I think it's premature. I think you'll start getting them maybe today or tomorrow, but I think that's premature unless Wisconsin or Michigan or Pennsylvania or Georgia or Nevada or North Carolina announce the final results. And if they're that razor thin, I think if you look at Michigan, right now it was 49.1 the last time I looked, to 49.4. Mm-hmm. So with that razor thin, even under state election law, if it's within a certain percentage, usually a point or two, the loser can ask for a recount, and that you may get. And you don't need a court action to ask for a recount. Every state has their own recount laws. It may be a half a percentage, it may be a percentage. Again, a federal court would not intervene and say, well, because this state has a half a percentage, you get an automatic recount. This one has 2 point spread and you get an automatic recount. They're not going to intervene on that either. But to answer your question, I think certainly the lawsuits will start being filed this week.
Wow. Okay, so we're either going to see recounts, we're going to see lawsuits, we're going to see both. We could see this could be a very long process.
It really could. Now, the nice thing is, if someone files a lawsuit, so if you and I were involved in a lawsuit in federal court, it could take 2 to 3 years to get to trial. Because this is a national election, the courts will absolutely expedite it. They'll call it what they put on the rocket docket, meaning the district court level judge, he or she, would make a decision with a matter of hours, if not by the end of the day. Then the Court of Appeals would do an expedited appeal, hearing it almost automatically and say, I want briefing on this within 24 hours. They would get the briefing, then hold a hearing probably the next day, or at least within 72 hours or 48 hours, make a ruling there within a day, and then it would go up to the Supreme Court, and they would have to decide, do we want to hear this? Is this just purely a state election law challenge, or does it have national implication that could disenfranchise voters in other states? That's the question the Supreme Court would ask itself.
Okay, Andy, I appreciate it. Anything else of interesting perspective that you've noted along this process?
No, just it's interesting that both sides are going to, the first answer from both sides is we're going to go sue. And, you would like to think that why not go through the process, see what the margin is. People are complaining about Philadelphia stealing votes. There's no evidence of that. Maybe they're going to steal votes. I don't know. But there's no evidence of that yet. And I think you got to wait to get the evidence in. And I think the first aspect ought to be, if it's a close, within the margin of a recount, ask for a recount and then go from there, versus rushing to the courts right away and asking one federal judge, he or she, to determine a national election, or a 3-judge panel, Court of Appeals, to have the 3-judge panel decide the national election, versus why not just let the process work? So that's would be my comment.
So there you have it, everybody. Andy Trusevich, the trial attorney from Texas, giving us some great perspective there and just kind of getting us prepared for what may come here in our near future. Until then, until these results are handed out, we will be covering the election results extensively on Wish TV, on our airwaves, also online at wishtv.com, through our social media pages. We are here for you. So get on there, comment, let us know your questions, your thoughts. We're all in this conversation together, no matter what side of the aisle you are on. Some very stark opinions in this election, as there always are. And to our experts, just to reiterate something that Spencer said, it is a beautiful thing that we all can express our vote and have a say. And you know what? We'll all be here after the election, no matter who wins. We are in this together. It's a message that we've heard so many times during this pandemic. So I think keeping love as a focus is a wonderful thing. And just buckle up, everybody. We will see what happens next. This has been your News 8 Daily 8 for Wish TV. I'm Kylie Conway. Online at wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook when you search Wish TV.
This episode of News 8 Daily 8 is presented by Downtown Indy.
Check out more podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.
allindianapodcastnetwork.com.